Hello, it's some dust or something. I'm here today because I want to talk about the Amargasaurus in Path of Titans. This is a dino that I'm a little nostalgic about because it had just released when I first started playing this game. So they were everywhere, everyone was excited. It was the first sauropod to be released in the game, and to date, the only official sauropod ever released in the game. It's got an awesome model. I mean, you just look at it and it's so like iconic and unique. It's got some of the most beautiful calls in the game. It's got some amazing skins. So you would think this would be one of the more popular dinos in the game. Well, it's not. In fact, it's one of the least popular, tying with Iguanodon in votes where people discussed which dinosaurs they see the least in the game. So if it is so unique, which it is, why is no one playing it? Well, that's going to come down to how this thing's built and how it stacks up against the competition in the current climate of Path of Titans. The Amargasaurus is very heavy, actually. It's sort of the border between the mid tiers and the sub apexes. So the health is just fine. You're heavier than a Lambio, you're less heavy than something like a Sarco. You also have pretty good health. 700 health, that's pretty decent. A lot of the sub apexes have that. So the bulk is not bad. So why don't people use it? Well, it's slow. In fact, this is the second slowest land sprint in the entire game, only falling behind Anodonto. Alright? It is painfully slow. Now, the good news is that you have tons and tons of stamina. You can run for days and days and days and days and days on end. You just won't be running for days and days on end very quickly. Now, surprisingly, you do have pretty good speed in the water, although it is so heavy on your stamina that I would not recommend it. So you might be thinking, okay, well, that's fine. You don't have to be fast necessarily. You have the stamina, you have the bulk. What else is wrong? Well, your attacks, thanks to your weight, your attacks are decent. All right, especially if you pick two of the subspecies that have these spikes on the neck, because they apply bleed when you attack with your neck, or if something attacks you where the spikes are. So there are two subspecies that give you those spikes, and that gives you the chance to apply bleed, which is great for a bulky dinosaur. It helps you in the waiting game, basically. All right. The other subspecies just gives you 2+ defense, which is fine, I guess, but I prefer this. Other than that, you don't have a whole lot going for you. Your attacks don't do a ton of damage. I mean, they're respectable thanks to your weight and everything, but it's nothing to write home about. You're too slow to get away from anything, is really the problem. Even if you're sprinting with that amazing stamina, a lot of things can do a fairly good job keeping up with you, even if they're only trotting. A lot of things can sprint after you and burst and rest it off and still catch up with you. You are so slow. I mean, your sprint is slower than the apexes, alright? In my opinion, two of any of the mid-tiers can kill you. One sub-apex can kill you. One apex can kill you. And I know that's going to come down to player ability and other factors, but for the most part, in my eyes, in my experience, that's how it stacks up. This thing has a lot of threats. You can't run away from anything. You can't hide. And you may not always have the offensive capability to stand out a fight against any of the things I mentioned just now. So why would you play this thing? You're threatened by a lot, you're not necessarily great against anything, things can get away from you, things can follow you, things can wear you down, there's not much you can do about it, so why would you play the Amargasaurus? Like I said, it's rare. You know, this is like an endangered animal. And there are perks to that. Some people won't kill you just because they've never seen an Amarg, or they've never seen an adult Amarg, and they think you look cool. You know, some people won't kill the baby Amarg because it's a cute little long neck, you know, reminds them of Littlefoot or Littlefoot or whatever. So there are benefits to that, and you'll definitely be the talk of the town. You'll see it pop up in Global a lot when you pass other dinosaurs. They'll be like, whoa, an Amarg, I forgot those existed. That's so cool. You look awesome. Can you sing for me? You know, and all these things, and that's awesome. You're just not good in a fight, and you're not really good, even as an adult, at surviving, okay? But if you want to be that rare dino that everybody talks about, this is it. This is your ticket. You know, you can go Iggy as well, but Iggy is not as showy as the Amargasaurus. I told somebody once, it's like playing challenge mode when you pick this thing, alright? And that's not to say you can't win in those hard fights. Again, player ability is a big deal and everything, and you do have tools there. The game is balanced enough so that, you know, it's not impossible to win those harder fights, but the deck's kind of stacked against you in a lot of ways. Alright, so with all that being said, I know that's kind of a long introduction, but let's get into this thing's kit and how I'm running it right now. The hide I'm using is thick scales because you're not going to be outrunning anything but Anodontos anyway. You might as well, if you're going to have to take those hits, you might as well be a little better at taking them. And that is your only hide option. For metabolism, you only have herbivore. And the attacks are, what you see here is what you get. You get a headbutt, you get a tail attack, and you get a stomp. That's more like it. Alright, so I mentioned in previous videos, I'm not big on the stomp. I don't like the stomp attack, mostly because it uses stamina, it's easy to see coming, you know, yada yada. You've heard it if you've watched some of my other herbivore videos. But with the Amarg, you're so slow and stationary anyway, you know, I figure it can't hurt. It's not like I have to compete for spots in my key bindings anyway, since there are only 3 abilities. You might as well try to get a few of those in during a fight. That is your big damage dealer. It just comes with some cost. Luckily, you don't have to worry about the stamina too much, but it is still predictable. And like I said, if you're running one of the subspecies with the spikes, you do that, you're applying bleed. So, there's something to be said for that. Also, I need to talk about this tail attack. You have a very long tail with very good range, and when you use it, it hits kind of low, which can be good for keeping those mid-tiers off your back. Say you're getting run down by a pack, and they're all behind you, nipping your ankles or whatever, that's going to hit all of them, and it does relatively respectable damage. So, that's the basic kit with the Amargasaurus. This is a hard grow. This is a very hard grow. The only thing I've had a harder time growing was Barsboldia, and that's because everything KOS is Barsboldia. Amargasaurus, at least I had some goodwill from Apexes that would kill a baby EO in front of me, but they wouldn't kill the baby Amarga. And that's going to differ depending on what sort of a server you're in and what the players are like. But at least you're like a cute little dude and you're not known for being a menace. Alright, some people think you're kind of cool. With all that being said, let's get into the calls and animations, which are frankly some of the best in the game, at least for the calls. And we'll start off with the broadcast. Next is the heart call. Then we have the aggro, the alert, the low call, and for animations you have shake it off, and a look around. We're talking about skins. You have your default, your dappled, reticulated, which I really love, specifically because my wife loves giraffes, but patchy, which I also think is pretty good, leaf litter, annul, aurora, burn, crowned, melanistic, albino, and backer, which is one of the cooler backers. And that about does it for the Amargasaurus. This is a rough one. I do think it's worth it. I think this is a crowd pleaser. People usually get really excited when they see an Amarg. And that and maybe the challenge is why you would grow one of these. Just don't be surprised if you die a lot. You only have so much to work with. There's no ducking out of a fight you don't want to be in. There's no hiding from something you don't want to fight. And there may not always be a way to win a fight that someone else starts with you. But still a cool dinosaur. Love this thing to death. Maybe don't play it that much compared to some of the others, but I do like how excited people get when you pass. So if you're like me and you've grown some of the apexes and the sub-apexes and the mid-tiers and you're looking for what to grow next, if you're an experienced player, give this guy a shot. It'll give you a challenge and you can help me raise the population of these things in Path of Titans. But yeah, that about does it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was informative for you, and have a good day.